already learned, as well as some different ways to mix tenses. You will learn how to express a future event in a time clause using words like when, before, and after. Next, you will learn how to combine several different tenses using because. We will also go into detail about combining simple past and present perfect using the word since. Lastly, as a final review of everything that you learned in this course, you will watch a video which uses all of the tenses from this course. By the time you finish the lessons this week, you'll have a good understanding of how to use verb tenses. Future time clauses. Take a look at these three sentences. When I got to my office, I ate a bagel. When I get to my office, I eat a bagel. When I get to my office, I'm going to eat a bagel. Now, can you place these words in the correct sentence? In the blank spaces after office. In the first sentence, we should say yesterday, and you know this because we have two past tense verbs. In the second sentence, we should use every day, and you know this because we have two simple present tense verbs which indicate a habit. And finally, in the last sentence, we should use tomorrow because we have the future tense here, and wait a minute, this isn't future tense. This will be the focus of our lesson today. This is a time clause. It starts with a conjunction that indicates time. In a time clause that expresses the future, we cannot use future tense. Let's watch a quick video where Emily and I talk about a future event.
Hey!
Hey!
It's the day we've been waiting for.
Bagel Day! Oh, I love free food. And stealing food, too.
You know I can't be mad at you on Bagel Day!
What's this?
What?
A text from Tammy. You'd better hurry. There is only one bagel left in the office.
Oh, that bagel is mine. When I get to the office, I'm gonna take that bagel before you.
Not if I get there first. When you get to the office, I'll already be eating that bagel.
I don't think so. By the time you get to the office, I will have already destroyed that bagel. I'm out of here.
Listen again to the first time clause that we heard. You will see the words on the screen. Try to identify the tense that is underlined.
Oh, that bagel is mine. When I get to the office, I'm gonna take that bagel before you.
This is simple future tense.
Mine.
Now, try to identify this next tense.
Not if I get there first. When you get to the office, I'll already be eating that bagel.
This is future progressive tense.
What?
And finally,
I don't think so. By the time you get to the office, I will have already destroyed that bagel.
this is future perfect tense.
That was a good bagel. Fun.
Here are the three sentences that we just heard. Now, focus on the first clause, the time clause. Notice that the verbs here are all identical and they are all in simple present tense. All of our actions will occur in the future. We will both get to the office, but in this situation, Emily will arrive first. Then she will take the bagel right when I get there. Even though these are both in the future, we cannot use the future tense in the time clause. Use present tense. Here, in the future progressive, first I'll arrive and I will start eating. She will arrive and interrupt my eating. We still use simple present in the time clause. And in the final scenario, the action of eating will be finished before I arrive. Everything is in the future, but the verb in the time clause remains the same. By now, you should be able to tell me what's wrong with this sentence. We cannot use future tense because this is a time clause. The correct sentence is, when I finish this course, I will start the next course. Here are some words that we can use to start a time clause. You should be aware that this is not an exhaustive list. Here's another example in the future. Emily and I will be friends again. You should be aware that this is not an exhaustive list. Here's another example in the future. Emily and I will be friends again by the time we leave the office today. This time, the time clause comes after the independent clause. The time clause can come first or second. It doesn't matter. Just remember to never use the future in a time clause. Take a look at these two sentences. My brother will graduate next year. Before that, I will start a new job. Let's combine these using a time clause. By the time my brother graduates, I will have started a new job. Don't forget that the verb must agree with the subject. So, in simple present tense, we need to add s to the verb graduate for a third person singular subject. Here's another example. Both of these verbs are in future progressive. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., I will be working. My brother will be sleeping. If we combine these with a time clause, just get rid of will, but keep the progressive aspect. Just use present progressive. While my brother is sleeping, I will be working. Let's try one more. Tomorrow at 10:30 a.m., I will have been working for an hour. My brother will have been sleeping for an hour. It would be very uncommon to hear this phrase since this verb tense, future perfect progressive, is rarely used, but let's give it a try. Just get rid of the future aspect. Our new sentence is, when I have been working for an hour, my brother will have been sleeping for an hour. Our new sentence. Future time clauses. Mixed tense. The past affects the future. To start out, take a look at the verbs in this sentence. My phone rang while I was sleeping. Can you identify the tenses? Rang is in the simple past, and was sleeping is the past progressive. You may remember this from a previous lesson. You already know that it is possible to use these in the same sentence, even though they are different tenses. And this makes sense because both of these actions are in the past. You may also remember this example, where we use two different tenses with a time clause. I'll be eating that bagel when you get to the office. We know that both of these actions occur in the future, regardless of the fact that we are using present tense. But take a look at a different example. You decided to take this course because you want to improve your English. Notice the verb tenses in this sentence. We have past and present, which are two completely different times. You might ask, is this possible? The answer is yes. That is because the past affects the future. You made a decision to take this course a few weeks ago. You wanted to improve your English then, so you could say this, but you also want to improve it now. Here's another example of mixed tenses. I feel tired today because I swam 3,000 meters yesterday. This time, we have the present tense in the result clause and the past tense in the clause that tells us the cause. This is also possible. There are several different ways to mix tenses, as we will see in this lesson. Try to fill in the correct verb tense in this sentence using these verbs. Emily, still upset because I her muffin last week. Can you change the verbs to the correct tense? Maybe this timeline will help you. The correct answer is Emily is still upset because I stole her muffin last week. Because Emily feels upset now about something that happened in the past. Try another example. My suitcase today because I on a trip next week. Here's our timeline. Here are the events. The correct answer is I am packing my suitcase today because I am going to go on a trip next week. You could also say, I am going on a trip next week because this is a planned event. Here, we have the present progressive because this is today, which is now not a habit, and simple future for something that will occur after now. Think about the timeline for this one. Because there's a hurricane tomorrow, Sam, a bunch of supplies last night. When do these events occur? The answer is because there is going to be a hurricane tomorrow, or we can also say because there will be a hurricane tomorrow. Since this is a prediction, both ways are okay. Sam bought a bunch of supplies last night. The same rules apply to other cause and effect conjunctions, or in this case, even though, which expresses the opposite of what we expect the result to be. my car tomorrow, even though it a lot lately. First, let's think carefully about the second verb, rain. Notice the key word lately. This is something that started in the past, continues now, and may continue in the future. Continue is a key word here. That means we should use present perfect progressive tense. The first verb, wash, is probably a bit easier. The correct answer is, I'm going to wash my car tomorrow, even though it has been raining a lot lately. In this sentence, we still have present perfect progressive in one clause, but notice what is different in the first clause. So now our timeline looks like this, which means that we need to change the verb to I washed my car yesterday. Let's try something a little different. I've given you the correct which means that we need to have present perfect progressive. Wash my car tomorrow, even though it has been raining a lot lately. In this sentence, we still have present perfect progressive in one clause, but notice what is different in the first clause. So now our timeline looks like this, which means that we need to change the verb to I washed my car yesterday. First clause. So now our timeline looks like this, which means that we need to change the verb to I washed my car yesterday. Let's try something a little different. I've given you the correct sentence with the correct verb tenses. The wind had been blowing before I got home, so I will rake up the leaves in my backyard later. Now, I'm going to show you two timelines, and you need to pick the correct one that matches the sentence. Or the second one is the correct timeline. The wind had been blowing in the past before I came home. In addition, came is in the past, not now. Now that I've exercised today, I think I'll eat some ice cream tonight. In this sentence, Notice we have the conjunction now that, which means because now. That means we use some aspect of present tense with this phrase. Which timeline best represents this sentence? You'll need to decide if the action of exercise happened in the past or if it is happening now. If you chose the first timeline, then you are correct. Although this action happened in the past, we use present perfect because the time period of today is not finished yet. To review, we have seen that we can mix several tenses together, present and past, or future and past, and present and future. We can even add progressive or perfect aspects if we need to. So how do you decide which tense to use? Well, there is not necessarily one rule that will tell you what tense to use. Just think about your timeline. It depends on when these actions happened. Present perfect and simple past. I am a swimmer. This action is true right now. In fact, I have been a swimmer for many years. I have been a swimmer since I was 7 years old. A long time ago. But I won't tell you when that was. Notice we are using the present perfect tense with have and the past participle. You probably know we are using this because it is an action that started in the past, continues now, and will probably continue in the future. You also know that we are using this tense because we have the word since. You may remember that we can use since before a year or a point in time. I have been a swimmer since the 90s. But we can also use since with a clause. Remember, a clause means we have a subject and a verb. There are two clauses in this sentence. I have been a swimmer and since I was 7 years old. In the clause that starts with since, use simple past. In the independent clause, use present perfect. Here's another example. Emily and I have known each other since we started working at UCI. Have known is in the present perfect, and started is in the simple past. Now I want you to try it. Here's our timeline. We are looking at the past. We are going to talk about a bad driver. John. John got his driver's license, but look at what happened after that. Can you complete the sentence using the verbs get and crash? Take a moment to think about it. If you said, John has crashed his car twice ever since he got his license, then you're right. Good job. And it is possible that he will crash again. Notice the phrase ever since. It has the same meaning as since. Watch a short video. There's no sound, so just watch, and then I'll ask you to make a sentence about it. Now use these words to form a sentence about what happened. The verbs in gray are not in the correct form. You will need to change them. That means you may need to add a word that is not here to form the correct verb. Pause the video if you need to give yourself time to think. Jake has drunk 3 cups of tea since she sat down. Remember that we can also say the sentence like this. Since Jake sat down, she has drunk 3 cups of tea. If since comes at the beginning of the sentence, that is to say, if the dependent clause is first, you need a comma to separate the clauses. Here's another example. Here is the day that Frank downloaded some software onto his computer, the 22nd. But now, look at all the viruses he has on his computer. Try making a sentence with these words, putting since at the beginning of the sentence. Again, you will have to change the form of the verbs. Since Frank downloaded the software, he has gotten several viruses. Or if you're speaking British English, you can say has got. As a final check, let's see if you can find the errors in these 4 sentences. I have swam since I was a child. Since the moment Emily started learning Spanish, she has enjoyed it. Ever since I have woken up, I've had a headache. I crashed twice since I got this car. You may want to pause the video to allow yourself time to think. First, the past participle of swim is swum. A lot of native speakers get that one wrong, so if you got it right, then great job. Sentence 2 needs a comma because the dependent clause is first. In sentence 3, we must use the simple past in the dependent clause with since. And finally, we must use the perfect tense in the independent clause when we use since in the dependent clause. Okay. Great work! You've learned a lot of verb tenses and passive verbs. Now, you're going to watch a video that uses all of these. What? This is not my paperclip! Ah! Detective, I'm so glad you're here.
This better be quick. I'm flying to Greenland to stop an international drug deal after I finish here.
Something terrible happened yesterday at 2:39 p.m. My paperclip was taken.
What? Your paperclip? I cannot believe that you called me for a paperclip that was taken yesterday. You should have called me immediately after this happened. I'm going to cancel my Greenland trip.
Yes, good idea. In fact, terrible things have been happening here all week.
Okay, you'll need to explain this to me in just a few minutes. But first, right now, I'm checking my Instagram. My friend Jake always posts terrible pictures.
That's all right. You know where to find me. I'll be sitting at my desk when you finish.
All right. Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
I put a paperclip on my desk at exactly 2:35. Then I had to leave to take an international phone call. By the time I got back, someone had taken my paperclip.
I don't know why someone would do such a thing.
All week long, someone has been taking paperclips from the office. There's been an extreme shortage, so recently, loose papers have been flying around like crazy. You must find out who's been doing this.
You can count on me. This was found at the crime scene. The thief must have been a woman who wears jewelry.
And she must have been a woman with small hands. Or, I guess it could have been a child, but probably not, because kids never use paperclips.
It's true. Okay, I have a few questions that I need to ask you about the moment the crime occurred. What were you doing yesterday at exactly 2:39 p.m.?
I was sitting outside and I was eating at 2:39.
And you were eating your food?
Well, not exactly. You see, right before 2:39, I had found some free food on the table. So, I was eating that.
I see. Then it couldn't have been you. You couldn't have taken the paperclip. It's just not possible.
That's right.
What are you doing?
I'm not doing anything.
I've been looking for you for a long time.
But why? I haven't done anything wrong yet.
Okay, what's in your hand?
What are you talking about? My hand was cut off years ago in a scissors accident. Ugh.
By the time I finish this case, the Greenland drug deal will have already started and ended.
What are you doing?
I'm looking for a woman with 2 hands.
Well, that lady has 2 hands.
What?
I
Where?
know she has 2 hands because she always wears gloves. 2 of them.
Let's go!
Yeah.
I need to ask you some questions, and I hope you have a good alibi. Where were you yesterday?
I was in Paper Town. You've never heard of it. It's in another country. It's near Pinkland.
Pinkland, Papertown. Oh, okay. Well then show me the stamp in your passport.
I don't have a passport. I mean, I didn't have a passport yesterday. But what I mean is, I've never owned a passport in my life.
Okay, ma'am, you're making your situation worse by the minute. I can see that you have 2 hands. Now tell me about the jewelry that you usually wear.
I usually just wear rings.
Okay, you usually wear rings, but you're not wearing any rings today.
So, I have plenty of other fashionable jewelry, like my necklace, but you couldn't have seen it because it's been under my shirt.
Why don't you want me to see your necklace?
What? No. Yesterday at 2:39, right before the incident, I had been skiing for 2 hours.
Impossible. You couldn't have been skiing. It's way too hot for snow. Now show me your necklace.
Never.
What? Where did you get this?
I got it in Greenland.